Know your stakeholders. Even though maybe you're sitting in procurement, but really who are the different people that can influence whatever you may want to do.
Yeah.
And then more often than not, it might not be in procurement. It could be someone from finance, maybe.
Yep.
And get yourself out there. Because it's not just like you're doing your job well, yes, but who are actually noticing what you're doing. How much impact are you having in the whole organization? So you have to also position yourself properly.
Thank you so much for joining another edition of The Never Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement. Today, I have the great pleasure of being joined by Donna Kuenzler. And Donna is a digital transformation leader, passionate about technology for good. And I am so glad that you were able to join us today, Donna.
Hi, Sean. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to our discussion.
Likewise, I love that there are so many different stories of how people got into procurement. It's this really fun nexus of so many different skills and backgrounds, but there's not so many people that got into it coming through audit. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got to be in the role that you're in now?
Yes, so my foundational career was actually in IT audit. So I'm an SAP specialist, really techie. And audited a lot of processes, really IT processes and business processes, different modules of SAP, OTC, P2P. And I did that for 16 years. And afterwards, I moved on to program management. So I was a master data management program manager. And after a while, my role became the global process owner of purchase to pay. I have to say, I was a bit hesitant. I was a bit scared because I know how problematic it can be, knowing the breadth of the process and the
Was it one of
many
those times where you weren't
interactions.
sure you were ready, but you said, all right, let's do it?
Exactly, exactly. I'm like, I mean, I know the topic so well. So I was like, but I know the problems will be a lot on the different interfaces and problems that can come up. But I
Mm-hmm.
took the challenge and I was never far from procurement anyway, always. Uh, I mean, even when I did my short stint in finance, I was doing manufacturing finance and I was the controller for procurement and logistics. So I know a little bit. And then throughout my audits, and then as a global process owner of purchase to pay as well, my sparring part. So I was from finance at the time when I first stepped into a real P2P role.
Yeah.
My partners are procurement, so we work together. And then in my latest role now, I'm on the other side of the fence. I am part of operations. So the business process ownership is actually in operations and demand and supply chain management. So now I'm partnering more with IS, legal and integrity, and finance. Yeah.
And you've gone from the person that's there making sure that it was done the way it was supposed to be and working well to the person that gets to design how to make sure that it does.
Yes, yes. It's really, I would say it's more fulfilling, I would say. I mean, audit has always been nice that you can highlight what are the risks, what you can do, but to actually do the implementation, to think about the strategy is something else. And of course, it comes with maturity and all. But I do like that part of my job that, I get to design processes. I get to look at new technologies as well to implement to make our processes even better.
One of the things that I've always considered to be a superpower of well run, significant projects and programs is to go and consider, and hopefully in the organization they can, I think a lot of them they can, is to go and consider audit a friend and supporter and enlist their engagement through these magical words called control advice
Mhm.
because they can't give you an opinion on whether you're doing it right or not, but they can give you advice on what needs to be addressed as a residual risk. and they can highlight something that you as the person designing it needs to go and do. So it's sometimes in some companies people get scared of audit, but you could save yourself so much time and trouble when you go and ask them for help. But if you worked in internal audit like you or I did,
Mhm.
then and not very many people know I worked in operational auditing. So grateful I had that experience because that creates an ability to go in and see, like we were talking earlier about how there's all of the things that could go wrong,
Mhm.
and it helps you identify and then even evaluate. Now that you're on the, I'll call it the other side, you can even better evaluate the cost of those things that you might do to control that risk, to reduce that risk, to manage it, I mean, avoid where possible. But there's so much in the way systems end up being designed. And you've got this great experience to draw from of seeing where things fall apart. Maybe if you have a moment to just share, what are some of the top ways that you see those systems and programs and so on start to fall apart or really not create the value that we could save the adoption for later. But if we think about
Yes,
the
yes.
the risk, the controls, and where the connections
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah, you mean you're right. Compliance is one thing.
Yeah.
You find yourself creating a solution when actually they're not compliant. Especially if you're a highly regulated entity, subjected to Sarbanes-Oxley standards, that will be a problem.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in some companies over the years, and even in my own employment as well, where I have highlighted like interdependencies. How do you make sure that what you're doing, how does it impact downstream and upstream
Yeah.
upstream processes?
Yeah.
You're not a silo. I mean, that's one thing also about P2P. You have to understand you're impacting other functions. It's very cross-functional.
Oh
So
yeah.
the understanding of interdependency risk, integration risk, um, security is one thing. We're always talking about approvers and stuff. How are you making sure you're following the right approvers, who should be approving transactions, contracts, what other documents.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of things that, it's I'm putting on my IT audit mindset now. Input, process, output,
Right.
reporting,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
interfaces. Yeah.
And there's sometimes a temptation to be like, oh well, if that department just didn't call us when they had a fire drill, it's like, well, actually, if you were proactive, they might not have one. And there's
Yeah.
there's this interesting tension between those two
Mhm.
groups. And from the audit perspective, you see the bigger picture, not just the one
Mhm.
department. And I think this is one of those real superpowers for people that have seen the bigger flow. And it's one of the it's kind of the Achilles heel of somebody who's only worked in and focused more narrowly in procurement. Is it's easy to forget about the finance downstream impacts or the supply chain or the upstream in and somebody has to come back and audit it later. Um,
Correct.
there's that SAP experience too, because for companies that run SAP, you can appreciate that there's a structure and pattern that is super reliable, but
Mhm.
it's complex enough, it scares a lot of people, doesn't it?
It can. And I mean, I remember when I was auditing, it's never black and white when you're auditing SAP. You always have to ask why. You look at configuration, you have to ask, why did you set it up this way? And more often than not, there's a good reason. And you have to just kind of understand and see how they mitigate things. If it's not supposed to be set that way, how did
Yeah.
they mitigate it in some other way, right? So it's
Yeah.
always about understanding the whole. It's never it's never a checklist, I would say. I mean, the checklist can help you, but you need to understand when it's not to your liking. You know
Yeah.
why.
It's a
Yeah.
it's a little bit like SOX controls. They can be
Mhm.
done super heavy and super expensive or super lightweight, and the way that that's done is gonna be a factor of the organization. I
Yeah.
I love the idea that, um, you've had a really remarkable background and experience. And through your journey, there's there's something really beautiful about what's driving you to go and be an example, to leave the world better than you found it. This never-ending climb, as I talk about it. But you're being the example to people that are earlier in your path, right? Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like? And you've even written a book about it.
Yes, yes. I think, I come from the Philippines, and I left when I was 23 years old, really to work abroad. So I went to Singapore. I was actually not I wasn't even planning to go abroad. I was happy where I was, but then I got not conned, but I got convinced by my colleagues who were already in Singapore saying like, "Hey, join us." I was like, "Okay, let me try." I said I'll try it for 2 years and then I ended up, you know,
How many years
20
later? Just a few years later.
20 plus years now.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing. I love that.
22 years now, right? And yeah, I mean, during that time, you don't have Facebook. LinkedIn was primitive version at the time.
Very
You don't
primitive.
hear about the profiles of other successful, I would say, women or Filipinas, Asian women who are really thriving in their careers, or not just their careers but also in giving back to the society. You don't hear much of that. And I think as we have grown, technology has grown, more connectivity happened. That's where you get inspired as well of what other people do. And
Yeah.
I think that's how it is. I mean, ever since as well, I mean, I've always been, let's say, an advocate for, women empowerment, education, and it just came together. In the end, as I was telling you, the book was not planned, but it just happened, and it became more profound for me. It suddenly I had a purpose. I understood my purpose. So it's more of, the book that we were talking about. It's a self-help book to help
Yeah.
people who wants to plan or move abroad. It came about because I was an overseas worker, I would say, and I know the challenges. I've had 15 years when I was writing that. I've had 15 years of experience, and I have seen people who have had challenges along the way who could have done it differently if they know what to expect. So it
Yeah.
came from that. Yeah.
There's
Hmm.
there's a whole there's a whole set of steps that you've taken to get you where you are, but that meant that you had to march to the beat of your own drummer and go try new things that in many cases, like, go move to Singapore, hey, take this job. That would terrify a lot of people, but you jumped to it and
Hmm.
you've learned from it, but now you're also sharing those experiences to go and help others on the same path. There's also something really, really cool. There's this pattern of kind of human frame of what's normal and what's possible, and for so many people, they look at, well, this is the pattern. And maybe there's a handful of patterns that people who grew up in the Philippines that want to work abroad, maybe there's only a handful of patterns that most people would imagine. But those kind of stereotypes aren't really relevant. You could throw those out. But to help do that, you need those examples of people that have gone and set and charted their own path, marched to their own drummer, and done some really, really remarkable things. So I am so grateful for you because you've chosen to be different and you've chosen to break the mold and go do some fun things. That that is the fundamental principle behind so much of the transformations that companies are trying to get into. It's the go break the mold of the way we're doing it today to go get that next version of what good looks like. But that's hard because somebody's got to have imagined it. Like, we can't get to something that somebody hasn't imagined and then articulate it and communicate it and set up that strategy and so on for. So can you share a little bit more about how that, I guess, background philosophy, I call it never ending climb, and the courage to go try new
Hmm.
things, lead the way, and then share that, because that's really what the transformation is. Not the cool tech. It's about leaving it better than you found it and having people adopt it. Can you talk me through how your background sets you up uniquely for that, and then how that leads you to aim at leading in those big transformations?
I think it's, I mean, underneath, it's also part of the audit mindset because it's not about finding fault, but also, as I said, it's we're IT audit, right? It's more operational processes, how to
Yeah,
make things better. And you top that off with wanting to know what's possible with the
yeah,
latest technology. And I've always been, I mean, I like technology, as I said, I mean, that has been part of my blood growing up, that, what's the latest, or how do I audit this latest technology? How do I find out more? I research actually myself. I did not have, I'm SAP subject matter expert without having an SAP certification because I did my research. I was quite
Yeah.
resourceful on SAP help before, you know. Those
You and me both.
SAP, what do you call this? Those groups,
SAP
communities.
community and
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
help.sap
So,
and reading
yeah.
OSS notes back in the day.
Oh, says no, yes. So it was more that drives me, and knowing that it can be done better. I can be a pain in the ass about it. Hard, sad to say, but I would be pushing like there's a better way. Come on, guys, you know. I'm like, and if they don't know, you want to really educate them. Look, guys, I met this supplier. There's a better way. It seems. Can we explore? Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to have that same mindset with my team as well because that's essentially what we are. I'm part of the process excellence and digital transformation team. That's what I'm leading. And I want my team to be the same, that they're passionate about finding new ways to help the business really be more, what you call this,
Just be better.
global, yeah, be better. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
World class. There you go. World
Yeah.
class. Hmm.
I love that. There's um so much of how we do business today is still rooted in the way it was done in the 1950s, and here we are generations later just with a digital version of something similar. And so there's so much opportunity to go and really transform that. Um and there's international intercompany norms like the existence of a purchase order that, yeah, I mean, conceivably we could just roll with that. But there's so many better ways to organize it and generate it and review it and approve it and make sure that it's shared and accepted, and all of those things can be iterated. But and so finding the ways to make it better within the fundamental constraints that are on a near term basis. What I love about that is there's the never ending climb, the leave the world better than you found it, and that search, that passion to go make it better, that turns into securing the sponsorship and getting to go move through change management to unlock the adoption. And those are tricky things. What are the ways or the tools that you use to go help those functions work?
So, first, if you're part of the big transformation, probably sponsorship is the least of your problems because it's normally top down, right? Yeah, you're told to, like, you have to do this.
Yeah.
But the big problem in those big transformations is always change management. It's always being able to explain to your stakeholders on why you're doing it and what's in it for them. So if you nail down those two things, I think your life would be much easier when you're running that program.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the whole follow through of making sure that after the project, what solution, whatever it may be that you implemented, continues to be running in operation. So the whole operating model is very important as well. So that's the key thing there. Now, if you are running smaller projects, you know, you think about like, oh, I want to implement this, let me get an approval. What's your business case? How is your business case aligned to the overall strategy? Because then if it is already aligned, there's less challenge, or you will not get challenged so much because it's
Yeah.
aligned. Yeah, if people would better understand that, oh, okay, you want to do this because in the end, it improves our customer quality or it improves our time to deliver. Great. Yeah, then let's do it. Right. So it's a no brainer. And then it's more of just prioritization, of course. How much money do you have in the pot, right? And when you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Biting off something that's big enough to make a difference and not so big that um, it's unwieldy or or really risky. And that unknown unknowns are the things that usually come back to bite you. But when you're coming from an audit background, it trains you to go look for all of those things to reduce the unknown unknowns massively before you start. And I think that's one of the that's one of the risks is people will sometimes go, hey, I need to fix this, and they miss stepping way back and looking at the forest for the trees.
Correct.
um and that's one of the things that I know when you're able to go and look at some of the SAP configuration and think, hey, you know, I bet we could do it better. There's probably a reason it was set up for that. And staying
Mhm.
curious. I am such a big fan of curiosity because when we're curious about why was it set up this way? Because that would leave this, this, and this. Well, how else are we dealing with those? Or is there, what else do I not see yet? What else do I not
Correct,
understand yet?
correct,
It's,
correct. Yeah.
it's,
And
there,
I think also understanding that it's some of the programs or transformations are cross-functional. So, interdependencies is key, and
yeah,
understanding who are the key players in those interdependencies would help a lot. Yeah, to anticipate how the whole transformation will impact each one. Yeah.
absolutely. If Donna, if you had advice for somebody, call it yourself 15 years ago, what would you want to say to yourself?
That's interesting. Like, yeah, know your stakeholders. Even though maybe you're sitting in procurement, but really who are the different people that can influence whatever you may want to do?
Yeah.
And then more often than not, it might not be in procurement. It could be someone from finance, maybe.
Yep.
And get yourself out there.
Yeah.
Get yourself out there. You have no idea how much your profile, if it's out there, it can be noticed.
Yeah. Go
That's
leave the
one
world
thing.
better, and
Yes, because
that gets noticed.
exactly, yes. Because it's not just like you're doing your job well, yes, but who are actually noticing what you're doing? How much impact are you having in the whole organization? So you have to also position yourself properly. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, putting a good foot forward makes a big difference. Donna, I am
Mm.
so grateful for you joining our journey to explore your never-ending climb. And for all of you watching, this has been another edition of The Never Ending Climb for a Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement. Thanks so much for joining. See you next week.